doing everything that you feel is right and you're still not building muscle, then it's probably because you're not doing one of these 4 things or maybe all of these 4 things. Hey man, Gary Walker here and welcome back for another video. All right, I'm gonna give you 4 reasons your muscles aren't growing after 40. So here's the thing. When you get 40, you really can't do the same things you used to do in your 20s, even your 30s, and expect to get new muscle tissue. So there's several different variables to consider. There may be several things that you're doing wrong, or maybe just one of these things. But at the end of the day, if your goal is to build more lean muscle tissue, which that should be the goal for any men, whether you're 40, 50, 60, or even beyond that, all right? Because muscle is the key to longevity and quality of life. It makes a massive difference. You're already gonna be fighting your body due to something called sarcopenia. So once you get into your 30s, your testosterone levels start to plummet, sarcopenia starts to kick in every decade. That's just the natural wasting of your muscle tissue as you age. So when you're battling those things, then you definitely need to be very smart and strategic with all the other components to muscle growth. So with that said, the very first thing we're gonna talk about is definitely gonna be your nutrition, all right? So nutrition is gonna be key. Now, nutrition, there's a big umbrella. When I say nutrition, that could mean eating a lot of calories, eating a lot of carbohydrates, eating a lot of protein. So the first thing I really want you to focus on, when your goal is to build lean muscle tissue, you need to make sure you're eating enough food in general. So that doesn't necessarily mean you need to eat in a surplus though. A lot of people assume that you need to eat a surplus above your maintenance calories to build muscle. That's not necessarily the case because a lot of men naturally, especially once you get into your 40s and 50s and 60s, start accumulating a little excess body fat. So your body can use that. It can tap into that stored body fat to use to build more muscle. So that's the thing you really need to focus on. So I'm gonna tell you to make sure you're at least eating at maintenance level. If you don't know how to figure that out, there's a lot of BMR calculators, which is just your basal metabolic rate. You can go online, enter BMR online calculator. It's gonna pull up a lot of different options for you and they're free. Enter your height, your weight, your age. It's gonna give you a general idea of how many calories you need to consume to maintain your weight. So if you're eating at maintenance and you're doing these other things, then you're gonna be able to build muscle. So now the next thing you really wanna focus on, again, we're talking about the nutrition umbrella, is you wanna focus on prioritizing lean protein. So when I'm talking protein, I'm talking about your chicken breast. So just poultry in general. So lean cuts of chicken and some turkey. You wanna make sure you're eating lean cuts of beef, 93.7 or leaner, or top sirloins, not the ribeyes, not the fattier cuts of meat. You wanna make sure you're eating some good fish as well. Salmon is a little higher in fat, but they're good essential fats. That's gonna help you eat enough calories to make sure you are, fueling your body to fuel your workouts and recovery. Those are some really good sources of protein. Eggs is another really good one. So a lot of good, convenient ways to get your protein. I'm gonna recommend 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of your goal body weight. So if you're 160 pounds, but you wanna be 180 pounds, then you're gonna wanna stay closer to the 180 grams of protein. That just gives you an idea. So again, a lot of different other variables and factors to consider, and we're all unique. So what works for me may not work for you. What works for 10 of my clients isn't necessarily gonna work for 100 of my clients. Everyone is different. So basically the 0.8 to 1 gram, if you're getting anything in between that range, you're gonna eat sufficient protein to sustain some muscle building. That's the number one thing. Also, don't be afraid of complex carbohydrates. I know in today's society, carbohydrates are demonized, but going back into umbrellas, well, think about carbohydrates this way. When people say carbs are bad for you, well, consider table sugar is a carbohydrate, but so is a sweet potato. Obviously, those two aren't equal. So you wanna make sure you're getting some good complex carbohydrates, sweet potatoes, all right? Rice, potatoes, fruits are really gonna be good. Some vegetables are gonna be good. So make sure you're eating enough complex carbohydrates to not only fuel your workouts, but also make sure you're getting optimal recovery from those workouts. And then you also want to make sure you're getting all the micronutrients that come along with that as well. So I like to do protein, then complex carbs, and then get those essential fats from your avocados, your egg yolks, your extra virgin olive oils, things like that, to just make sure you're rounding out those macronutrients. So if you're doing that, then you're going to be sufficiently providing your body with what it needs to stimulate more muscle growth. Number two now, so we've already gotten the nutrition covered. Number two is all about the workouts, man. So obviously, if you want to build muscle, you got to make sure you're working out with weight. So you need some resistance training. The main thing when it comes to resistance training, though, is you got to make sure you're working out with enough intensity. A lot of people go to the gym day in, day out, and they've been doing it for 1, 2, 3, 4 years, and you can't really tell. I'm not sure if that's you or you have a friend like that, but that typically happens a lot of the times. And when I'm talking to somebody about their workouts, they tend to do the same thing. They're doing the same thing today that they did 2 years ago. And I don't mean the same exercises necessarily. I'm talking about the same weights and the same intensity. So not only do you need to be lifting weights, you want to focus and prioritize on compound movements. Your squats, your bench presses, your overhead presses, your back rows or pull-ups, all of those are going to give you a lot of results, not only from strength benefits, muscle building benefits, but testosterone boosting benefits as well. So that's where the priority needs to be set. You got to prioritize those. Now, keep in mind, there's a lot of different ways to do each of those exercises. As a man over 40, typically I always try to get the best exercise for each compound movement. For instance, when I say squat, that doesn't mean loading up the barbell and doing back squats. Some of you guys can continue to do those, but a lot of you can't, all right? And that doesn't mean you never can again. It just means you wanna make sure you're able to do them with correct form because you don't wanna injure yourself. And you wanna make sure you're working to your ability. So you can do goblet squat, body weight squats, heels elevated squats, a lot of different squat variations. So that's what I mean by squats. Same with bench presses. Doesn't mean barbell bench presses. It can be dumbbell bench presses, dumbbell flat bench presses. It can be dumbbell incline presses. So just make sure you're doing a press and not an isolation exercise. So what I mean by an isolation is like a fly, for instance. You can still do flies to get a good stretch in your chest, but you don't want to substitute a compound exercise for a fly. So if you're doing both, you're going to get great results, but you want to make sure you're doing the overhead presses, the bench presses, and the pressing movements that are going to be the compound movements. Now you know you need to be working out. I typically recommend 4 workout sessions per week. 45 minutes, that's enough to stimulate your body for more muscle growth if you're using good intensity. If you're in the gym, you're talking, you're hanging out, or even if you're at home, you're on your phone in between sets, you're really not into the workout, and you're doing an hour workout, but you're only doing 20 minutes of work, then that's not sufficient intensity. So when you're in the gym or whether you're at home working out, whenever you're in your workout zone or workout space, you want to make sure mentally you're into what you're doing. Pay attention to the movements, pay attention to the exercises, challenge yourself, push yourself from workout to workout. That's going to lead me to something called progressive overload. So going back to the guy doing the same thing today that he did 2 years ago, you want to make sure you have some kind of improvement from 2 years ago. It can be more load. So if you started out at 20-pound dumbbells, hopefully you're at 40 pounds by now, or somewhere close. You're trying to make growth somewhere. If you did 20-pound dumbbells and that's the most you can do because the load is just so heavy, well, if you're doing that with 10 to 12 rep range, then try to do 15 reps. All right, so just increase the rep range. Or if you're doing 3 sets of 10 to 12 at 20 pounds and you're pretty much maxing out the reps that you can do with that weight, we'll add another set. Instead of 3 sets, do 4 sets. So you can see small progressions are being made and it doesn't have to be all across the board. You don't have to lift more weight, do more reps, do more sets, all from workout to workout. Just make sure you're doing some form of progressive overload consistently to really challenge your body and stimulate it enough so it can make more muscle tissue. All right, so that's the next thing. And then you gotta prioritize things that are gonna help you boost testosterone. Testosterone could be a huge factor. So one of the best things to do when it comes to testosterone, obviously, is just prioritizing sleep. So I'm gonna touch on that in this next one, but sleep is gonna be essential. Another thing is doing those compound movements like I recommended. If you're doing the compound movements and you're challenging your body, that's gonna help elevate testosterone. But another one of the key things that we're gonna touch on with the nutrition umbrella is processed foods, fast foods, fried foods. All of those are loaded with estrogenic properties or toxins and chemicals that can elevate estrogen levels. And estrogen and testosterone pretty much compete. If you have high estrogen levels, you typically have low testosterone levels. So you want to eliminate the processed foods, eliminate the fried foods and all the junks, the pastries and sugars. Eliminating that and replacing those foods with whole foods that are nutrient dense, that is gonna go a long way already in boosting your test levels. Those are some of the main things you can do to boost your testosterone. And another thing that I really want you to prioritize, so I kind of hinted about it just a while ago, but it is your sleep and your recovery. Rest, 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 and recover. So when I say 4 days a week of resistance training, that doesn't mean, man, 4 days I'm doing well, getting really good results. So 5 days or 6 days, I'm probably going to speed up my progress. That's not how it works as a man over 40, 50, 60, or 70. Okay, so you basically want to make sure you're taking good rest days. So rest days, you want to recover from your workouts. You want to make sure you're challenging yourself in those workouts so that your body needs the rest. Then you want to take the rest. Not only the days off, but resting body parts, which is why typically you want to follow a well-structured program. You don't want to do full body workouts 4 days a week. All right, you're not allowing your body, your muscles enough time to recover and repair themselves. So you want to make sure you're following a structured program. Now that's the rest part, then also the sleep part. So rest, recovery, sleep, all of that ties together. When you sleep, you want to get that 7 to 9 hours of sleep. But here's the thing. It's not just about getting the 7 to 9 hours of sleep. If you're tossing or turning, you're getting up in the middle of the night to go to the restroom, if you're constantly doing that, you're not gonna get into that deep restorative sleep, which is when your body's gonna produce more testosterone. So again, the goal is to elevate testosterone levels. You can do that by getting consistent, deep, restorative sleep for 7 to 9 hours each night. So if you're sleeping for 7 to 9 hours, you're probably gonna get a couple of hours of that deep restorative sleep, or even the REM sleep, the rapid eye movement sleep. Those are what you're striving for. And if you're struggling to get that sleep, to get into that deep state, then that's when I'm gonna recommend you try a ZMA supplement. Those are 2 minerals, zinc and magnesium. So 2 minerals that your body usually is deficient in, but those lead to testosterone boosting benefits. So if they help you get into that deep restorative sleep, which they will, then you're gonna produce more testosterone. So it starts that whole cycle again. So go to sleep, get in that deep sleep, get more test, get all of those benefits, and then wake up feeling refreshed, revitalized, and rejuvenated. Okay, so again, if you're working out and you have been working out and you're doing everything that you feel is right and you're still not building muscle, then it's probably because you're not doing one of these 4 things or maybe all of these 4 things. Prioritize these and you're gonna start to get those results you're striving for. Well, thank you so much for watching this video, and as always, get busy, get after it, and God bless.